Hello and welcome to today's video. My name is Rita, this is my channel 10 Red Lipsticks, and this is my first Project Pan introduction for 2025. So I had my most successful year ever with eyeshadow panning last year, and that was thanks to the amazing Project Level Up created by Sophie Alexandra Hartz. I will link Sophie's channel down below. If you want inspiration of, someone who does project pans and who just is getting through their makeup, is using what they have, is hitting pans and using up products, Sophie's channel is really, really inspirational and aspirational, and she has all of these fun projects that she does, several that she created herself, and then she does other projects that other people created as well. And yeah, I love this project, and last year I completed levels 1, 2 and 3, and I got to level 4 and I didn't hit level 4, but I hit 3 pans in level 4, so I'm just absolutely thrilled. So that's 1, 2, 3 and then 3 because I didn't quite make it to level 4. So that's 9 new eyeshadow pans in my collection thanks to doing this project last year, which is just a huge increase for me. I haven't actually worked out my pan percentage because I know it'll be embarrassingly terrible, because I have a ridiculous amount of eyeshadow and I haven't hit that many pans. But yeah, so I'm really, really pleased with how this project went last year, and I want to do it again this year. So in this project, I will explain the rules, but obviously you should go and check out Sophie's introductions where she explains them all fully. You randomize or select palettes, and then for each level you're on, you have 2 goals. First off, to use every shade in the palette as many times as the level you're on. So for level 1, use every shade once, so like no pan left behind the palette. For level 5, use every shade 5 times. So as you move up, that gets very challenging. And like last year, the first palette I started with was the Beauty Bay Neutral 42. So that palette has 42 shades. So using every single shade took a lot of work, and it took a lot of like tracking. Like I had to be really on it, and every single day I was going to use the palette, I had to look at which shades have I already used, which ones are left to go, which was just very hard to keep track of with such a big palette. So even though it was only level 1, that took quite a bit of work. And then with other palettes, like my excuse me, level 3 palette was just a 5 pan palette, so I was able to use every shade 3 times by just using the whole palette 3 days in a row, so that was great. And then I didn't need to kind of worry too much about tracking things perfectly, and then could just focus on hitting the pans. So it's really a great aim because it helps you get to know the palette as a palette. I like mixing and matching my palettes, and this project and No Pan Left Behind, which I did also last year, helped me to kind of get to know a palette in its entirety and on its own merits, which taught me a lot of things. Taught me that a lot of palettes do not have an inner corner highlight, which is frustrating, but also just showed me, kind of the artistry that goes into choosing the colors in palettes, and the different ways that maybe it wouldn't have occurred to me to combine colors before, when I was kind of just not really thinking of the palette on its own merits that often. So yeah, I really like this section. It gets tricky as you move up the levels, but in level 1 it's easy and really fun. So yeah, so that's your first goal, is to use every shade once for level 1, etc. And then your second goal is to hit as many pans as the level that you're on. So for level 1, hit 1 pan. For level 5, hit 5 pans, and so on. It is challenging, but I really, really enjoy it. Previously, I have tried to pan an entire palette, and I've never been successful with that. I've never been as successful with that as I was with this project last year. I just find it very overwhelming to, try and hit 6 pans or 10 pans or however many pans there are in shades there are in the palette. I find that really overwhelming and daunting, and it just kind of feels like I'm not super likely to succeed, so there's not a huge point in trying really hard, which is silly, because you could hit, I hit £9 last year. You could hit £9 in a year, and loads of people obviously are aiming to actually finish the entire palette with Pan That Palette, but for me, I was always just aiming to hit Pan and still didn't have a huge amount of success. So what I love with this is even 5 pans, it seems just so much more doable than panning an entire palette, and B, the variety. So like once you've hit excuse me, your 1 pan in your level 1 palette and you've used every shade once, you're moving on to level 2, you're moving on to a different palette. So you're not kind of thinking, oh well, for the entire year I'm stuck with trying to use this shade, 50 times, 100 times to hit pan, finish it up, whatever it is. So yeah, I really, really love that this project gives you both the chance to really get to know a palette, dig your teeth into it, to hit pans and see that progress, but also the variety of switching between different palettes as you move through the levels. So yeah, it's such a fun project, and I'm so pleased with the success I had last year, and I would like to have the same success again this year. Now, last year I chose my level 1 palette, and then I had like a list of 12 or 15 or something palettes where I wanted to hit a pan, and I randomized from that. I again am going to choose my level 1 palette for this year, but I have it on my eyes. Can you guess what it is? But I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do a list and randomize for the other levels, or if I want to be strategic and pick particular palettes yet. I haven't decided yet, and I'm not putting pressure on myself to decide that now. I was tempted to consider, trying something a bit different, not doing this project again, and for example, trying pan in every palette, where basically, doing level 1 on more palettes. And I decided not to do that. A, I love the no pan left behind aspect of this project. B, I love, people are familiar with this project. Lots of people do it. I love feeling part of the community, and doing the same project lots of other people are doing. And it just gives it a bit more structure. If I was like trying to hit pan a new pan in as many palettes as possible this year, it would be easy for me to just get distracted and wind up, focusing on 15 palettes and only hitting 1 or 2 pans because I was too distracted and pulled all over the place. Whereas this project gives me really good structure, and gives me really concrete goals, and I think achievable and sensible goals. So I am going to stick with this project, but I am considering not trying to work my way all the way up to level 5. Not that I did that last year, but for example, maybe after level 3, I'll roll back to level 1, something like that, in order to kind of move through more palettes in my collection than I did last year. So last year I got to level 4, so I have new pans in 4 palettes in my collection that didn't have pans before. And that's an amazing feeling. But I feel like if I am working my way up to level 5, absolute max I'd get to is level 5 this year. Whereas if I did like 1, 2, 3 and then went back to 1, I could maybe get to level 3 again. In other words, have new pans in 6 new palettes this year. So that's all up in the air. I haven't firmly made my decisions on that yet. But I'm starting with level 1, and I'm going to dig my teeth in and have loads of fun with it. I have chosen the palette based on the Fantastic Ladies theme for their Pan That palette this year. So Fantastic Ladies is a Facebook group of project panners, and they all vote on a joint theme for their pan that palette every year. I'm not going to try and pan this entire palette, but I thought the theme was really nice. This year's theme is Old Faithful, so a palette you've had for a long time that you really, really love and that you want to pan. And I thought that was a really good theme. And I have lots of palettes that I say, oh, this is a real favourite. I absolutely adore this formula. I love this colour story, blah, blah, blah. And they look used, like they have some dips or whatever. but they've no pans, and I'd love to have some pans in palettes that I really, really love. So I thought this was the perfect opportunity to pick something on theme and go with one of my favourite Old Faithful palettes that I have had for a long time. So my Project Level Up Level 1 palette will be the LA Girl Pro Mastery eyeshadow palette. So this format of palette from LA Girl has 16 shades. It's a huge palette, has a big giant mirror, and then 16 massive eyeshadows. They are freaking huge. Just to clarify, like, just to contextualize how big this palette is, it cannot stand up in the deep drawers in the 9-drawer Alex units from IKEA. It's too tall to stand up right and for the drawer to open and close. So it's pretty flippin' huge. As you can see, the pans are really, really big. So you can see, like, this is my favorite shade, has a bit of a dip. You can see a bit of disturbance on some of these shimmers, some like very slight dips, etc. But we're not close to pan anywhere. I'd say this is my deepest dip because it is my favorite shade. So it's something I could consider, though I will say last year I found it really just much harder to pan mattes than shimmers. So I think I'll probably focus on a shimmer. The amount of eyeshadow in here is ridiculous. We have 35 grams and we have 16 shades. So we've over 2 grams of product per shade. So it, like, if you look at a lot of other palettes are just much, much less than that. So for example, these Catrice ones, so these are 0.8 grams each, less than 1 gram per shade. And this is over 2 grams per shade. So it really, this is a big one. So I think in that context, it'll take me a while to hit my 1 pan. And it'll take me a little while to use all these shades because there are 16 of them. But I think if I go for one of these neutral shimmers, that I will be able to hit pan without too much difficulty, because it's just something you can kind of use with every look. So for today's look, I used this in my crease. I used this to like give a bit more definition on the outer corner. Then I accidentally dipped into this when I meant to dip into this. So I decided to go with it. So it slightly darkened things up. And then the main shimmer I have on my lid is this guy here. And then on the inner third, or like inner portion of my lid, I have this guy here. So I feel like that shimmer is so beautiful. It's this like really rosy neutral, that could work kind of with almost every look I would do for the next few weeks, and therefore I could make some serious progress on that. Obviously we've got a lot of pink and purple in here. Those are my favorite colors in terms of if I'm wearing color. And then we've got some beautiful neutrals, and I love neutrals. So this is kind of my ideal color story. I love this palette and I love the shimmer formula. Let me just swatch a few of these for you. Like really, really shiny. They're a bit flaky, and they are just very, very shiny. And I just really, really love them. So yeah, looking forward to having some fun with this. I was considering waiting to do this for level 2 if I went with like something that was easy that I could knock out in January, to have this to focus on in February for Valentine's Day. But I figured I should just get going on it because these are very big shadows. So I could easily still be working on this in February. Yeah, I am very excited about this, and I would just be so happy to see a pan in this palette that I love so much. So yeah, that is my Project Level Up Level 1 pick. I may or may not randomize for level 2. I think probably I won't. I think I'll probably be strategic for this whole project and just pick palettes I would like to see pans in, or that suit the mood I'm in at the time or suit the season or whatever. But I'm open to randomizing. What do you think? Do you think randomizing like makes it more fun, or do you think randomizing, you know, means I could get bogged down with a big palette that takes a long time and that I'm not that into? So I don't know. What do you think? Okay, so I am now a few weeks in the future. I have been working away on my LA Girl palette for level 1. I've been using every shade once. I've been working on my chosen shade to try and hit pan, and I've realized a bit of an issue. I just do not have the patience to be digging through every other palette I own to find the thing I thought I needed most of all, which was a neutral matte to go in the crease, outer corner, whatever, to go with that shimmer. And then I realized actually another shade I needed as well was a light neutral shimmer to go in the inner corner. So I decided actually, since that was 2 shades, that I would go straight ahead, pick a palette and work on that for level 2, because I think I'll be able to make great headway on those shades alongside level 1. I know obviously this is all very strategic. I'm choosing palettes that complement each other, but this is how I'm making the project work for me. And having gone from No Pan Left Behind last year, which was just trying to do so many things at once, I was thinking, do you know what? It'd be easy to do these things at once, these 2 tasks, and I'm gonna make it easy on myself and hopefully get myself off to a great start. Hitting 3 pans, you know, in the first quarter of the year would be huge for me. So yeah, I'm very excited. So I'm not going to show you this because that'd be a bit of a spoiler as to how much progress I am making. Stay tuned. I will have an update in the next couple of weeks, but I am rolling in alongside my LA Girl Pro Mastery, where we've got a neutral shimmer, which is what I have on the center of my lid today. I am rolling in the BH Cosmetics Hanging in Hawaii. So I think these just, obviously the pinks, lots of fun together, but it's not the pinks I'm pulling in. I am pulling in this matte shade Maui, which is actually very neutral. Like, it's cooler than the rest of than most of this palette, which is very warm. It's not, I wouldn't say it's like super cool. It is what I have in my crease and outer corner today, and it's a great shade because you can buff it out more for like a more transition type shade, and you can build it up to build a little bit of depth, at least on my very pale skin, which is looking particularly pale because I used a very light layer of foundation today, so more of my fair redness is showing through. Anywho, that's irrelevant. So yeah, Maui I'm going to be aiming to hit pan on, and then I was deciding between Hula and Pineapple to work as an inner corner, and I decided to go for Pineapple. You can actually see a little bit of disturbance already there because obviously for my inner corner I use a small brush. So I am very hopeful that I will be able to hit these 2 pans, and then obviously I'll be looking to use all the shades in here twice. I'm not going to start worrying about doing that unless it just a shade calls to me. I'm not going to start worrying about doing that until I have completed that element of this palette, which I'm nearly finished using every shade once at this stage, a couple of weeks later, after the footage that you have seen at the start of this video. So yeah, I am very excited to be working on level 1 and level 2, which it doesn't feel overwhelming. It kind of just sounds like, oh, that's a lot, but actually it feels really doable. It feels like just making it easy for myself. Like, obviously these are bigger palettes, but I can easily bring these in a makeup bag with me to do my makeup at work or do my makeup in a friend's house or whatever. And this is the look. It'll be lighter shades and more intense lighter versions, more intense versions of this essentially. And I think this is a really fun, beautiful look. I needed a warm neutral look to go with red lipstick for a red lipstick ranking. If you haven't seen that video yet, I will link it down below. It's a very fun one, collab with Dubs Beauty Diary, so you should check out her one as well if you have any interest in red lipstick. But I wanted a warm neutral look because I think that's the most beautiful combination with red lipstick. And yeah, this idea came to me that if I'm going to be working on a couple of shades that go with this, I may as well try and pan those shades. So yeah, I'm very excited, and I hope you aren't mad at me for moving up to level 2 when I haven't even finished level 1. So yeah, stay tuned, and in probably a couple of weeks I'll have a good dip at least on the level 1 shade that I'm trying to hit pan on. And we can have a chat about how things are going. I'm not sure if I'll hit pan in that time because, as I said, they're just huge shades. Let's actually compare. So in the BH Cosmetics palettes, we've got 16 shades and we've got 16 grams. So that's 1 gram per shade. And as we said earlier, there are over 2 grams per shade in the LA Girl palette. So these are twice the size of these. So quite the challenge. But for a rose gold, which is one of my favorite shades, a challenge that I am happy to attempt. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to go check out Sophie's channel. And are you doing this project? Do you have a video with your intro for 2025? If so, please let me know down below and I will come and watch it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And happy new year. Happy 2025. This is the first video I'm filming this year. So wishing everyone all the good things. Or, you know, I saw a meme that was like, I wish you precedented times. I hope that you live in relaxed, normal times. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case for any of us, but I hope you have a great year and a great day. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.